Hey guys, welcome back to Jazz's Tutorials. I'm Jazzy, and today we're going to take a look inside of my last AMV project, Toxic. A lot of you guys have been asking me questions about like color correction and scene manipulation specifically to that video. So we're gonna look at that today. Let's open up this project. It's literally been like months since I've opened this project, so it's looking really unfamiliar to me now. So the first thing I want to take a look at is the color correction theme that I had for this video, which was like, you know, the red background, the illuminated face, the warm color tone. So let's see how I did that. Oh, by the way, this is going to be a bit more advanced. So if you're new to After Effects, you may have a little bit difficulty following along, but hopefully we'll be able to cover some of this more later in other beginner-oriented tutorials. But for now, I'm gonna be moving at a pretty quick pace. We'll talk about that later in other tutorials for you beginners, so sorry, we'll get to it, I promise. Okay, anyways, first we're gonna look at this color correction clip. We're gonna look at this one specifically. And right now this is in a pre-composed layer. In this pre-composed layer, it's just a simple panning situation that we have going on here. So if I double click this pre-composed layer, we're taken back to the base of this clip. So these are two adjustment layers. So let's turn that off and let's try to strip this down to the bare minimum of what it was. So we're gonna take away this adjustment layer. This one, just some magical looks. We'll get back to those. All right, and then this adjustment layer, just some more color grading effect stuff. Turn that off. And what we're left with is this. So this layer is my mask. If I solo this out, you'll see that this layer is my mask. So let's start with this and see what's inside of this. So let's turn these off and look at them all individually. Okay, so if I delete these masks, take a look at the original picture. So it's very green. I didn't like it. It wasn't the mood for what I wanted. When I started this project, I was like, red, I want everything red. So what I try to do first is cut down on the green. This first effect, channel mixer, I don't think I actually used. All right, color balance. This is where I did do some color manipulation here. And that was cutting out, I guess, as much as the green as I could. I was trying to get, you know, some skin tone back in here. And then, so what I did is I lowered the shadow green balance. I brought down the mid-tone green balance. I brought down a little bit of the mid-tone blue balance. And yeah, that's what I did in that. So then after we worked in color balance, I went into my favorite color correcting effect here in After Effects as well, Lumetri color. I'm still not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry. Okay, so this is where I did a little bit more and I was able to get, you know, that kind of more natural skin tone look. So with this, I brought the temperature up so it's warmer. Like if you go to the left, it gives you a more cool tone in temperature. And if you go to the right, it gives you a more warm tone in temperature. So I put it at 30. And then tint. Tint is like green and magenta, pink, whatever. And same thing, if you go to the left, you're gonna get more green in your picture. If you go to the right, you're gonna get more of that magenta, pinkish look. Wasn't what I was going for this, so I just wanted to add a little bit more pink tone, so I had it at 42. Highlight. I increased the highlight quite a bit. If you see at 0 here, it was a little dark and dingy, so I brought that to 96. And shadow. Shadow was originally this, and I brought that down to 12, negative 12. Whites. I use this one a lot to brighten up the face, so when I add that back in, you know, it just makes everything a little bit brighter. And the blacks, it literally just makes everything black a little bit more black and contrasted. You see without it, it's a little bit more like faded or less contrasted. So we added a little bit of that. And I think that's everything I did within here. Did I do anything in curves? No. Okay, so that was that. And then we did the mask. I did the mask. Oh man, I deleted my mask. All right, undo. Command Z 1,000 times. There's no freaking way I'm masking this again. All right, so we have our mask. Now, I wanted to work on the background. So let's solo that in as well and take a look at what it originally looked like. So, did I actually use this here? No. Why do I have channel mixer in all of these and I didn't use it? All right, let's turn this off. Let's turn this off and let's turn this off. So what we have here now is the original green background that it was at. Like we have some green tiles back there. And I wanted, you know, just, even though it's a super unnatural kind of background look, I just wanted it like red. So first, I guess I did some work here in Lumetri and it just seems that I brightened it. So let's take a look at the basic correction I did here. I increased the exposure by 2. If we take a look at the original, the exposure just a little bit goes a long way. So with that one, did I do anything in the creative? No, I think that's everything that I did for the Lumetri color. And then I did set channels. Now this is how I got, that red look. Let's do this one from the beginning so I can show you how I do that. So in your effect and presets, we're gonna type in set and you'll see it's right here. And so originally you have this, and right now your greens and your blues are still on. I turn those off. And when you turn the blue off, now it just has the green and red in it, which gives it a more like yellow look. I'm gonna turn the green off, and there you go. It's all red. It's the red background. Okay, so that was pretty much the extent of this one, of doing the background. See, it's like super simple and like not as crazy as maybe some of you thought it was. So let's go into this first adjustment layer that I did. Let's turn that back on. So we're gonna solo that in as well. All right, so we see there's something new going on in here now. So let's turn these off. What was the first thing that I did? I did some more color correction in here. So if we turn this effect back on, let's see, what did I do? I brought down the highlights just a little bit. And actually I did this because of the magic bullet looks that I added to this. So then I went back in and brought the highlights down because it was too bright. So I'll show you that in a minute. But yeah, originally it was at that and I brought it down to that. And then what did we do? We brought in some misfire. Okay, so this is a third-party effect that you can download from the internet. And I used misfire fading, which gives it this more low contrast kind of thing going on here. It almost looks more diffused, like it kind of diffused the colors together. And I like this because it makes like my edges of my mask look a little less harsh. It's just more soft, you know? Like it just looks more natural, like it's part of the picture, and it kind of blends the colors together a little bit. And then I added some of my favorite camera blur. I did this, I think, as like a transition. It was like, you know, part of the pan. Let's see if I can pre-render that so you can see what that did. Just a simple defocus kind of transition. And then lastly, I added this misfire dust, which if you look here, it's these little dust particles on the screen. Let's look at that. Just those little dusties. Just to give it some more movement, since this was a really like static scene, like she wasn't moving That's why I added, the panning and these little flickering dusts and the defocus blur. It just makes a very static scene less static. Lastly, what I did with this clip was adding Magic Bullet Looks. Now this is a preset that I made in Magic Bullet Looks. Magic Bullet Looks is also a third-party effect that you would have to download from the internet to use in your After Effects. And this is just a preset that I kind of came up with, just a simple diffusion, again, softening the look and just making it more blended and making the mask look a little less harsh edges. This little gradient that I did, just give it a little bit more warmth and more purplish tones. I guess originally I was using this and then I was like, that's too much. It's like a hazy look. I didn't like that. This one I get a lot of like mixed reviews for using. It's like some people love it, some people hate it. And I'm one of those people who love it, and I have to use it in like every project. It's this chromatic aberration, is that how you say it? Which is basically like, the RGB split. I didn't use the film grain here. I think I used that in this another adjustment layer. And then auto shoulder, it looks like it's cutting down on the highlights a little bit, this one. Yeah, okay, cool. That's cool. Yeah, don't remember doing that. So if I go back into my Magic Bullet Looks layer, my adjustment layer here, and let's turn that effect back on, the one that we just looked at. And we have this, we just looked at it in that other window. And then last thing I added to this was another adjustment layer with Magic Bullet Looks. And it was very simple, very subtle. This like edge softness, just to kind of give it a bit more, depth of focus kind of look, so we're just very much focusing in on her face. This was a very intense moment. And then I added some film grain, also again, because it gives it a little bit of movement, like the grain is moving on the screen. So now when we play this out, as soon as my computer stops giving me a hard time. And so now you're seeing this clip without the last panning element we're going to add to it. So let's go back into our main composition where I added that. It's in Toxic 4. Again, we'll just create an in and out point so we can see what that looks like over here. And with this, it's just a scale that I did. So in scale, I made some key points. Here it's 100, here it's at 102. Very subtle movement, but I feel like it makes a big difference in making this very static into this, Huge difference. Perfect. Okay. So that's the breakdown of that. And that's the breakdown, of the color correction that I did for majority of this video. This is what it looked like. It was just, copy paste into all of the other clips. All right, so let's move on into the next thing that I wanted to show you guys. This will go into a little bit more color correction and also like changing the background and doing a little bit of scene manipulation. So let's go inside of this clip and take a look at what's there. So let's first take a look at my mask. Let's see what it looked like without. And so I don't delete my mask again, let's just set this to none. So this was the original clip. Let's take out the color correction here. This is what it originally was. So the first thing that I did for color correction was I added some curves. The basic curve tool. And then again, with this color correction tool, let's add my mask back in because this background looked stupid to me. I'm like, let's just put something there that's more interesting than a wall. So let's set these back to add, and this was at subtract. Oh, not that one. This was at subtract. Okay, perfect. Okay, and so here we have this background layer. Let's take a look at that by itself. This was the original clip without any color correction. Added some color correction, increased the temperature and made it warmer, brought down the shadows, increased the whites, brought down the blacks. Then I added some camera blur to give it, that defocus look, repeat edge pixels. So now when we add back our mask layer, we have this, it's just given, a huge addition of depth to the scene versus when we just have, this solid gradient background, So lastly, what I did is added, a simple vignette that I made with the black solid. So if I take away the mask and then the transparency, put that back at 100. It was just a black solid that I literally brought down the transparency, added a little mask. The mask is feathered to give it, the soft edges like this. So if we go back to the layer, I added those same adjustment layers with the magic bullets. So you see here, I'm gonna add that, gives it that softer, diffused look. And then here again, some more magic bullets. It was the blurred edges and some grain, and then I added some additional grain. I did some scaling here once again. We're at 100 at this keyframe, and then 102, again, very subtle. Oh wait, there was one more thing that I forgot to show you guys that I did here. And it was the scene manipulation in this clip. So what we didn't go into is this other pre-composed layer. I forgot about this. Okay, so the original clip was this. And first and foremost, I did not like his mouth shape. I thought this was just a little bit too dramatic of a reaction of what was going on. And I wanted that to look less crazy. So I used this effect called Liquify to make it smaller, like that. And let me see if I can show you guys again how I did that. Let's see if I can recreate that. Okay, so we need to double click on this layer and open up this separate layer window. Because to use this tool, you need to be in this window. So I use this little finger poke tool. I don't know what it is exactly, or I don't know what the name of it is exactly. And this brush size is really big, so I'm gonna bring this down about that looks good. Okay, so if we did is I made his mouth smaller. Let's see how that looks. That's already like a huge difference. And I think I also brought up his chin a little bit more. Like if you see in the original, looks like he's talking. I closed the mouth more. So let's make the brush a little bit bigger and move his whole chin up. I guess this is a little bit, perfectionist kind of thing. It's probably not 100% necessary. Just for me, it bothered me to have this huge mouth. So that's about right with that. So I'm happy with that. The original that I did versus the one I just did now. Anyways, you get the main point of this tool. Just some basic scene manipulation. So now if we go back to our main composition and pre-render this, and we have, that. Okay, and thank you for watching part 1 of Inside the Project Toxic AMV. We'll be back for part 2 on Halloween, so I'll see you there. See you soon, guys. Bye.